Gather round, everyone, as I tell you a tale. A Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood about a theocratic dictatorship known as Gilead, very similar to the FLDS cult and the Taliban, complete with handmaids to serve infertile couples. And these handmaids are made up of the still fertile criminal element of women who've been arrested for either being gay or being proven to have had premarital or extramarital sex. Now, the book covers about a month or so in the life of Offred during her tenure with Fred and Serena Joy Waterford. And it's just a very, very narrowly described story about, how her life is now compared to how it was then. It mentions her husband, her best friend, her child, and her daily life before and now. Talks about how it is after, how she's in captivity, has no stimulation, she can't even use lotion, she can't read. And what's also in the book is a little mention of Aunt Lydia, the overseer of the handmaids, her shopping partner Offred, who is later on replaced, a fellow handmaid, Janine, who's a little unstable, immature, and the episode where the commander starts to take a little bit of a liking to her. He has secret games of Scrabble with her and gives her some fashion magazines. He even gives her a cocktail dress and sneaks her out for a night on the town at Jezebel's. And then the book ends with Offred being forcibly removed from the Waterfords' home for no apparent reason, and her fate and destination unknown. And she's never impregnated in the book, so we don't know what becomes of her. What the book, the movie, made in 1991, and the show have in common are her arrest at the border when she's separated from her husband and her child, and brought to the Red Center where they are all indoctrinated, taught that all their past misfortunes are their fault. They're all shamed in a big circle, and they are then assigned to their couple and given a shopping partner. And they also have those same greetings in common, blessed be the fruit and may the Lord open. And it also covers, when Commander Waterford became fond of Offred and took her out to Jezebel's and played Scrabble with her and gave her something to read. And then during their night out at Jezebel's, Offred finds her best friend Maura has been assigned there because she was, caught making trouble and being generally untrustworthy as a handmaid. Now, what just the book and the movie alone have in common. The Waterfords are, middle-aged. They're mid-50s, maybe pushing 60, which is why they need a handmaid. And later on, during the night out at Jezebel's, is when Offred runs into her best friend Moira, who was caught having escaped in a stolen aunt uniform. What is isolated to just the movie, at the time of, Kate Offred's arrest, Luke is killed, shot dead by border guards. And, while she's assigned to the Waterfords, she does have the affair with Nick, and she becomes pregnant by him, and later on successfully escapes Gilead. Other things, that are just in the movie is that Janine, she's really just a kid. She could be more than 16 or 17. And only in the movie, Moira and Kate become best friends in captivity. In the show and the book, they've been friends for a long time. Also, alone in the movie, since we don't get a whole lot of detail about Aunt Lydia, there's a lot of poetic license taken. And in the movie, she's a militant Bible thumper. More about Aunt Lydia, especially in the comparison between the show and the movie, because she's probably one of the most interesting characters in the show. Now, what is in just the show on Hulu, which is ongoing? Offred's husband Luke escapes to Canada, with Moira soon after. Offred's name is June. And shortly after, assignment to the Waterfords and indoctrination and a few ceremonies, they find, Janine's pregnant and she has a baby with, the Putnam couple, who are really awful people. Janine has kind of a meltdown, and she rushes back, takes the baby she had, and threatens to jump off of a bridge. She's sent to the colonies after the rest of the handmaids refuse to stone her to death. There is also, in the show, a little bit more backstory on Offred and why she's so dissentive. We get that she's gay, and she just doesn't conform with Gilead. She has affairs with some of the Marthas, which are what, housemaids are in Gilead. In just the show, the Waterfords are rather young. They are, mid-30s. But why they need a handmaid is because Serena was wounded. She's kind of a conservative, old school, it's hard to describe, kind of like I don't want to name names, but she's kind of like a Sarah Palin. Very, very pro-conservative values and celebrating the gift of motherhood. And a lot of, people she tries to preach it to, take offense to it, and she takes a bullet to her belly. And of course, this gives her a chip on her shoulder that she takes out on Offred a lot. The best part of just the show is Aunt Lydia. She is a sociopathic divorce lawyer turned school teacher. She loves kids, but she hates their single mothers. And she turns very spiteful when the principal she has a crush on turns her down. She kind of turns a single mother she's been trying to help over to social services and gets her child taken away, just mostly because of that. There is more specifics on Offred, later on called Off Joseph. June being a freedom fighter. We cap off season 3 with her liberating 52 children and a handful of Marthas and handmaids. And just before we leave season 3, the Waterfords are arrested over the Canadian border. And we see that Nick, the father of her second child during her time with the Waterfords, is kind of a snake in the grass. So we're about to find out in season 4 what's up with that. So it leaves the door open for a lot of interesting new developments that I'm really excited to see. Now, what the movie and the show have in common and are entirely Aunt Lydia's speeches that are entirely, seems like they're ad-libbed, because Aunt Lydia is not given a whole lot of dialogue in the book. In the movie and the show, she goes on about how, liberated women are all a bunch of sluts because they were given birth control and freedom to choose, and they could work and have their own money and not stay married if they didn't want to. And then there was the talk of no more freedom to, just freedom from. Now, what is isolated to just the book that would have been some glaring hypocrisies of Gilead? And not to mention that Gilead itself really is not just a theocratic dictatorship, it's a veritable fantasy land of denial and hypocrisy. There is no such thing as a low sperm count. And an infertile couple can make a baby if the handmaid just sits in the wife's lap while he's giving it to her. It's just a ridiculous, complete delusion. Now, in the book, because vanity is very much criminalized, Offred uses, what little butter she's given during her meals as a face cream and a hand lotion. And the most glaring hypocrisy of the book of Gilead is the idea of unbabies. We know what unwomen are. They can't make babies and they're not marriageable material, so they are sent off to the colonies to dig up toxic waste until they die of radiation poisoning. Unbabies are babies born with Down syndrome or spina bifida, anything that would, make them, not, genetically perfect, somewhat disabled. And what's done with them is that they are euthanized and disposed of. Very, very hypocritical of a theocratic dictatorship. And thus ends The Handmaid's Tale. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.